Okay, you guys, we're back. The quadratic formula we've been working on, which is one of the most greatest formulas known to mankind, very important. There's so much about that I could tell you about, but I just don't have time right now. But anyways, here's the deal. You guys were supposed to work on the quadratic formula. It's very important. And this was your homework last time. Homework number 50, the quadratic formula 1 worksheet. Remember, it wasn't just that, it was also memorize the quadratic formula, and it wasn't just memorize the quadratic formula, it was memorize the quadratic formula correctly, which is very important, okay? I can't stress that enough, okay? So anyways, moving on, I'm not gonna keep going on and on about that, but know it correctly, memorize it correctly, it's worth it. Okay, I'm gonna do 4 problems from that homework. You also have the entire answer key worked out, sent to you for every problem worked out. I'm gonna do 4 of them here on the board. Okay, I'm gonna do number 9 to start off with. Okay, a squared is 9 minus 2a. So look, a squared is my squared term is already positive. That means I wanna wipe out el otro lado, the other side, right? Here we go, minus 9, add 2a, and now I get a squared plus 2a minus 9 equals 0. You always want to make it first equals 0. You want a positive in front of your squared term. So we're set up nicely. We're ready to roll. Our variable happens to be a instead of x this time. So instead of going x equals the opposite of b and all that stuff, I'm just going to say a equals, oh wait, let's figure out what a is 1, b is 2, c is -9. I better address this issue. This a squared, is different. The a value that we're referring to here is the coefficient of the squared term. So a is 1 here, but since a happens to be our variable, this is a different a than this a, okay? Just so you realize. So a is just like x or whatever. It's going to be the opposite of b. So the opposite of 2 is -2 plus or minus square root of b squared, which is 2 squared, minus 4ac, 4 times 1 times -9, the whole thing over 2a, which is 2 times 1. Okay? Now, that's going to give me a is -2 plus or minus square root of 4 minus nets out to be a plus. Look, negative times negative nets out to be a plus. 4 times 1 times 9 is 36. The whole thing over 2. Now, 4 plus 36 is 40. So we get a is -2 plus or minus square root 40 over 2. Now we have to simplify square root 40. Remember, that's all that square root pretty, square root ugly stuff. So we get -2 plus or minus square root pretty, square root ugly over 2. What's pretty about 40? It's going to be 4. What's ugly? 10, and square root 4 is 2. So it's going to be a is -2 plus or minus 2 root 10 over 2. Oh my gosh, there's 2's everywhere. Look at this, 2's everywhere. So let's factor them out. 2 out of the top. -2 divided by regular 2 is -1. Plus or minus 2 root 10 divide out 2, you get root 10 over 2. Now it's multiplication. So now those guys can cancel, and you finally get the great and mighty answer, -1 plus or minus square root 10. Cha-ching. There you go. That's the simplification part, right? The people mess that up all the time. A lot of times people can get to here, but they mess up the simplification after that. That's not okay. You got to be able to go all the way to here. Okay. Next thing. Number 11. 3k squared minus k equals 7. Okay. That's not equal 0. Right? And this is positive already, so I'm going to move the 7 over by doing this. Minusing 7 gives me 3k squared minus k minus 7 equals 0. Well, I'll tell you what, Now I got 0, good news. So A is what's in front of the squared term, which is 3. B is what's in front of the first power term, which is -1. C is -7, like that. And we just plug that stuff into the quadratic formula. Our variable's k this time, so k equals opposite of b. Opposite of -1 is regular 1, plus or minus square root of -1 squared minus 4 times 3 times -7, the whole thing over 2a, 2 times 3. Okay, what does that mean? Well, let's see. K is 1 plus or minus square root of -1 squared is 1 minus nets out to be a plus. 12 times 7 is 84 over 6. Oh my gosh. 1 plus or minus, watch, I can do this in my head. 84, 185, 85. How about that? And divided by 6. And square root 85 does not have any perfect squares inside of it. So this is as simple as the answer gets. And notice that's actually 2 answers, right? It's 1 plus square root 85 over 6 and 1 minus square root 85 over 6. That's what that means. There you go. Okay, look. 15, 2n squared equals -2 minus 3n. Again, my squared term is positive over here. That means I want to wipe out this side over here by adding 2 to both sides, plus 3n to both sides, and here we go. 2n squared plus 3n plus 2 equals 0. Okay, now I'm going to figure out A, B, and C. A is 2, B is 3, C is 2. Plug that into quadratic formula, which I have memorized and memorized correctly. N is the opposite of B, so -3, plus or minus square root of B squared, that's going to be 3 squared, minus 4ac, 4 times 2 times 2, the whole thing over 2a, 2 times 2. Okay, then let's see what that does now. N is -3 plus or minus square root of 9 minus, there's only one minus, so it is actually going to be a minus. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. So that's going to be whole thing over 4. Wait a minute. That's -3 plus or minus square root of, what's 9 take away 16? -7, right? Yeah, that's right. -7 over 4. Wait a minute. Now, this is what I got to point out. Pay attention, people. Pay attention. Look, there's a negative under this square root. You can't take square root of a negative numbers in the real number system. So at this point, we're gonna say no solution for the answer. But I cannot bring myself to lie to you. I cannot bring myself to lie to you, you guys. As much as I try, I can't. So I gotta tell you, that is not the correct answer. The actual correct answer is no real solution. That is the actual answer. That's it. But if you just put no solution, that'll be fine for now. But the really true answer is no real solution. There is a solution that's not a real number. You'll find out about it in Algebra 2, perhaps the greatest class ever invented. Okay, so hopefully you guys will be there sometime and you'll get to see the beauty of complex numbers. Okay, and then finally, this one over here. Oh my gosh, there's a negative in front of the squared term. Not my favorite thing. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to move this guy over by adding 4x squared to both sides. And I'm going to get 0 is 4x squared minus 4x minus 10. Okay, wait a minute now. I got some suggestions for you. Okay, if you look at this problem, I could say A is 4, B is -4, C is -10, and that would be fine. I could plug that into the quadratic formula and do some simplifying, and I would get to the right answer if I did all of that. However, if you notice, 4, -4, -10, they all have a 2 in common. So if I'm a little bit lazy and I'd like to use smaller numbers and save myself a little bit of work and maybe even save some reducing and stuff, the smartest thing you could do at this point is to divide out anything they have in common. Divide it out to knock these numbers down so they're smaller. That's what I always do. I recommend it. Look at that. These numbers will give you the same answer that those will, but it's going to take less work. You'll deal with smaller numbers and less simplifying. So A is 2, B is -2, C is -5. Plug that into the quadratic formula. X is opposite of B, so regular 2, plus or minus square root of B squared, -2 squared, minus 4AC, 4 times 2 times -5. Whole thing over 2A, 2 times 2. Now, keep going, keep going. Okay, 2 plus or minus square root of 4. Minus will be plus. 8 times 5 is 40 over 4. 4 plus 40, I could do that right here, watch. 44, 2 plus or minus root 44 over 4. And I can make 44 into square root pretty, square root ugly. Root 44 is, what's pretty about 44? 4. What's ugly? 11. Square root 4 is 2, so it's 2 root 11. So I will get 2 plus or minus 2 root 11, the whole thing over 4. Now, everything has a 2, so I can actually factor it out. 2 divided by 2 is 1, plus or minus 2 root 11, divide out the 2, square root 11, over 4. Now it's multiply. So when it's multiplied, then I can cancel. So I can make this a 1, make this a 2, and I get 1 plus or minus square root 11, the whole thing over 2, and that's as simple as it gets. Cha-ching. How about that? So, there you go. Now, this is the last video. So this is going to be the last time that you guys see me here, unless you go watch some of the Algebra 2 videos or something or whatever. But, you know, it's been great. I've enjoyed having you guys. This has been a weird situation with all these videos and these remote learning things and everything. I know it's not the most ideal situation for learning the material, but it's what we have to deal with. So too bad that we had to be quarantined like this. So sorry, gonna miss you guys. But that's how it is. And another thing, this one, all assignments that are gonna be turned in for credit need to be turned in by May 30th. Anything after May 30th is not gonna be given credit for. So everything has to be in by May 30th, just so you guys know, and have a good summer. Hopefully we'll be back in school in August.